My name is Jessica and I work with Simi. Today we have Nathan, who is the CEO and founder of MODRON.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all, and thanks so much for making the time. Really appreciate it. So as Jess said, my name is Nathan Polito. I'm the CEO of MODRON, which has an online dispute resolution platform that will be powering the IMSG 2020 competition, which we're really excited about and pleased to be supporting. So I believe the general purpose of today's session was to provide an opportunity for basically questions and answers. Anyone who has any questions or thoughts at all, this is an opportunity to just have an organic discussion, and more than happy to answer anything that comes up. So that's what I believe we were hoping to get out of today. It might be useful for those of you that don't know anything about MODRON, just to give a brief overview and background. So we started on our journey over 7 years ago with an initial vision to help find a way to resolve the world's disputes, which is obviously a very ambitious one. And we realized almost immediately that we would have to leverage technology in order to have any kind of meaningful impact on that mission statement. So we've been developing our software platform. We've released our second generation ground up rebuild called Spaces at the beginning of this year. And we've had a really interesting year, as I'm sure all of you have. And in our space, what's been happening with the pandemic and remote work has driven an incredible adoption rate and use of the platform. And it's been really exciting for us because we've had thousands and thousands of cases all over the world in many different matters and types of disputes being processed through the platform. So it's been a really fascinating and interesting time. And the way we work is on feedback from our users. So we really live from the feedback that our clients and users and members of the industry tell us about what they need, what they want, and that's really what shapes our product and the future of it. So we're really pleased to be supporting this fantastic competition because not only is it a great initiative, but it also, from our perspective, we get a lot of feedback about the new generation of up and coming mediators and dispute resolution professionals, and it's just a great synergistic relationship. So that's just a little bit about us. Unless you have anything to add, Jess, we might open up for any questions and answers that anyone has.
Thank you, Nathan. Actually, this is why the competition decided to go with MODRON as well instead of Zoom, because we thought it would be great to feature another alternative dispute resolution platform rather than Zoom, which is going to be a one-size-fits-all sort of thing.
Sure.
So I'm going to open up the floor to questions now. If you're comfortable, please unmute yourselves and then you can just pop the question directly to Nathan. But if unmuting yourself is not convenient, you can also put them in the chat and then we'll be reading those questions out. So I think just to kick some things off, Nathan, I think one of the common questions was how to move between spaces.
Sure.
Perhaps if you could do sort of like a demonstration between how everyone could move from an everybody space to their own private space. I think this would be really helpful for the judges, participants, as well as the room session managers.
Absolutely. I'll just go ahead and share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we're looking at now is something very similar to what you'll see when you first log into your account, and you'll see the various cases that you're attached to. So what we're going to look at first is how you can join calls in different spaces that you have access to and move between those calls. So whether you're a judge or a competitor, it's the same process. So the first thing I'll do is just point out a couple of things. So we've got the case name on the left side here, and if I click on that, we'll be taken to what we call case view, which gives you an overview of the case. It'll show you the team members, the participants in the case. It'll show you the spaces that have been set up and the purposes for those spaces, and some other things like files that have been shared and so on will aggregate here. At any time, you can navigate to any of the spaces you have access to. So I'm going to click on the everybody space, which everyone in the case has access to. And from here, you can chat with parties, share files, and so on. But what we're going to focus on first is how you can join video calls and move between calls in different spaces. So it always starts with the blue phone icon in the top right of every space. So you'll always see this blue phone icon. Hopefully you can see my mouse moving, but it's in the top right. And if you click on that at any time, you'll see the list of spaces that you in particular have access to. So judges will have a different set of spaces they have access to than participants and so on. But every space that you see is one that you have access to. And if you would like to join a call in a space, you basically just click on it. So if I want to join a call in the everybody space, I'll just click once. It will give me the opportunity to check my microphone and camera settings. And if I'm happy, I'll just join the call. And you'll be connected to the call. Now, other people will join you on the call, obviously. I'm just demoing on my own at the moment. But from here, if I wanted to then move into a private space, perhaps the judging space, I would again click on the blue phone icon in the top right. And now we can see that we're actually on a call in the everybody space. And then I can go ahead and just click on the judging space. I'll automatically be disconnected from the call I was on and automatically connected to the call I selected in the judging space. So we can see on the left here, there's a video icon next to the judging space, which is one of the ways you can tell that you're on a call here. The other way is, again, click on the blue phone, and you'll see that in this instance, only myself is on the call in the judging space. So just one more time, if I then wanted to go back into the everybody space or a joint session, I could click on the blue phone in the top right, select any of the spaces I have access to. In this instance, I'll select everybody. Just click once. It will disconnect me from the call I'm currently on and connect me to the call I selected, where any of the other participants will be there waiting for you once you've connected. So just while we're on this subject, just a couple of more things which might be useful to point out. So there are toggles for microphone and video. My video is currently off because it's being used by Zoom, but you can toggle microphone on and off, camera on and off. And this icon here enables you to toggle through some of the different views that we have. So the second one's called speaker view, where the person that's currently speaking will be in focus. But you can also click on the smaller images of anyone that you see on the right, and that will lock them in focus. So if you really want to see what the requesting party's reaction to something is, you can lock them in place for more focus. In all the views, you can also toggle a more full screen and back to a more minimized view with this arrow icon. The third view is what we call pop-out view. It gives you a tile that you can click and drag anywhere on the screen. And this can be useful if you are doing any other kind of work on the platform, like perhaps drafting an agreement. It gives you a lot more screen real estate to work with. And then we have the standard grid view, which again, you can toggle back and forward. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to move between calls in different spaces. Overwhelmingly, we find that parties of all walks of life find that quite easy to do. And a lot of people actually enjoy the control and flexibility of being able to move themselves between those spaces. So I'm not sure if any other questions have come up, Jess, or if you have any other suggestions.
So we've got a request, Nathan. So basically, the request is more for like document uploads, but actually document uploads aren't allowed for IMSG, and this is already provided for in the rules. But
Right.
Perhaps we could do a demonstration of how they can share their screen.
Yes, sure, absolutely. I don't have anything set up, but it's basically you just click on the share screen icon here at the top, and it will give you choices for what screen you want to share. I don't really have anything set up, but anything that you share will be available to all the other participants. So you can share an application like a whiteboard or another tab in your browser, or your entire screen, and that will be made available to all the participants on the call. And just quickly, I know you said that file sharing wasn't something that
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but just really quickly, if anyone's interested, it is really easy to do. You click on the blue plus icon and there's an upload file option. which enables you to browse your computer or device and share that any kind of file securely with the participants of that space.
Yeah. So with that said, I know some teams are actually using the practice spaces to sort of like coordinate their own meetings. I mean, in those practice spaces, feel free to upload the documents, right? But during the actual competition, you won't be able to upload a document. But because even if you do, it will not be taken into consideration for the scoring by the judges.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a question from Kat that says the judging space, at which point do we need it? When are we issuing points like a private space for the judge? So Kat, the judging space is more for like at the end of the 90-minute round, you get a 15-minute scoring before you provide feedback. So during the 15-minute scoring, we do ask that judges move to their private space, their judging room to judge there. You don't necessarily have to take the full 15 minutes. You can maybe take 5 minutes or something like that. But otherwise, you do have to move into the private space. This is also the time for participants to sort of like network between themselves for like 5 to 15 minutes whilst you do the scoring. Okay, so we have a question from Andy. Is there a chat function like in Zoom where we can type privately to our partner?
Right, thanks for that question. So yes, there is a chat function and it's within every space. So we're currently in the judging space, and at the bottom of every space, you'll see this input box where every participant can type a message and hit enter, and that will be shared with the participants of that space. So if you wanted to send a message to your team, you would jump into your relevant space, whether you're on the requesting team or the respondents team, and you would type a message there, and only the participants of that space would be able to see that and reply. You know, the judging space, if you wanted to message about the judging component, you would do it there. And if you wanted to share a message with everyone on the case, it would be best suited to do that within the everybody space.
Thanks for that, Nathan. I also noticed that we have amongst us some room session managers. And one of the common questions that came up in the last session was that if a room session manager start a recording for the session, what happens if the room session manager subsequently then drops out of the call? So for room session managers, once you've actually started a recording for the session, you don't have to worry about it. Even if you dropped out of the call, the recording will continue to run. All you have to remember to do is to turn off the recording at the end of the round.
Exactly.
And I understand Nathan was actually sharing that the recordings come in 60-minute intervals. So there will be actually multiple files, but don't worry about this. The files, the organizing committee will actually be sorting the files out themselves. So you don't have to worry about the actual recordings.
Thanks, Jess.
Okay, so we have a question from Aaron. Is there a way for teams to start practicing using the MODRON? Yes, Aaron, the current practice space that everyone has been onboarded to is how you can practice. Feel free to use that to test out your video calls, your mics, everything. So that space will always be there. We will not be using that space for the competition. We have other rooms set up for the competition. We have
Thank you. Sorry, if I could add to that question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to practice with another team? So I understand that this participant's space is open for me and then my 2 other team members. Is there a way for us to actually practice against another team?
For the moment, no, not unless I've actually added another team to your name, well, to your case, basically. So right now, even though you've got an everybody space and sort of like a requesting, responding space, it's sort of for you to practice moving between the rooms.
Okay, thank you.
But we will look into having teams pair up against each other if this is something that everyone is keen on. If you're keen on it, just drop us a message at imsg@simi.org.sg.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we have a question from Sophia this time. I have a follow-up question regarding messaging. Should the mediation advocates or mediators be using the group chat during the mediation? If so, how do you recommend using the chat functions to help the mediation?
That's a really interesting question. So there's a number of specific ways that the messaging function can be used in matters. And I might just speak to a couple of those. So if the mediator is moving between calls in the different spaces, so perhaps the mediator is moving between the requesting space and the respondent space, and conducting private sessions. What you can do is, before you join a call, you can click on the left side, which doesn't interact with calls, it's just visiting the space. And you can type a message saying, "Hi, I'm available to rejoin call," if that's okay, or whatever the messaging is. And this can be a way to not just appear on what could be a private conference. So you can signal your readiness to rejoin a call and wait for the confirmation before joining. The other thing you can do that we see work quite effectively is, if you're, for example, spending a little bit of time with the requesting party as a mediator, you may want to keep the respondents in the loop. So I can stay engaged on the call with the requesting party, and if I click on the left side here, instead of the blue foam, it doesn't affect the call I'm on. So I can stay engaged on a call with the requesting party, click on the respondents, and just let them know I'll be another 10 minutes, or whatever the messaging is. But those two ideas, one where you announce your readiness to rejoin a private call so that you don't just barge in, and the other where you perhaps keep the different teams updated on the happenings of the matter. Those two ways of using the messaging we see work really well. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
yeah. So Sophia, there's another thing that what I found useful in the mediations I've attended is sometimes mediators actually use the check function to put in the agenda for the mediation, so then everyone could refer to it as well.
That's a good tip.
Okay. We have a question from Rachel next. Is it possible to pin multiple people rather than just one person?
No, not at the moment. So when you pin someone on a call, it gives them the most focus. So that's just the way it works. It's looking at one person at a time. Either the normal mode is the current speaker will be in focus, or you can lock someone else in for focus. But you can switch between participants if you like as well, quite easily.
So Rachel, I think there are actually multiple views when you try to start a video call. So there is a gallery view, a speaker view, which sort of like just brings puts forth the speaker video in. But so all these different views are actually I would say set towards your screen. So not everyone is going to be sharing the same view. So it's just an individual preference.
Right.
And yes, Rachel, there is a gallery view function. But right now, the difference between MODRON and Zoom is that on Zoom, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but on Zoom, it's possible to hide non-video participants, but it's currently not possible yet on MODRON.
Yeah, that's true. Because we're build a platform specifically for dispute resolution, there's not very many cases or use cases we've come across where you'd want someone being able to observe a conversation and not make it very clear that they're in the room. So for confidential dispute resolution processes, I think it would cause a lot of problems if we could have someone observing a call, but it's not clear that they're there. So in our particular use cases, it doesn't make much sense to be able to hide someone who has access to the call.
Exactly. I think it's just because the way a competition is run. So that's why we do have judges and other observers as well in the room. But just so that it doesn't distract the participants, observers have been briefed to turn off their cameras and their microphones and mute their microphones basically. This applies for all the judges and room session managers that are going to be in the room with you. So I have a question from Catherine next. Is there a tech person or staff that I can reach out to? The short answer to that is yes, Catherine. There is always going to be at least minimum 1 to 2 individuals who are called room session managers. So these room session managers would double up as your tech person as well as for your timekeeper. So your first point of call in every round is going to be the room session managers. And room session managers have actually gone through a training and briefing by the organizing committee to help support you. We have a question from Rachel again. Is there a timing feature in MODRON, or should we keep time to ourselves? I think there is a timing feature in MODRON, but that's sort of like a post-call thing where you can see your call log. In terms of keeping time, your room session managers will be there to keep time for you, and they will be timing the 90 minutes. So 90 minutes would include the quokkas that you, if any, as well as a break. They will let you know how much time you have left at certain benchmarks. So of like 45 minutes, 15 minutes. And then when you have 0 minutes, they will be turning on their cameras and their microphones to sort of like tell you the round has ended. So when that happens, it's definitely a hard stop. Okay, so that's about all we have for the questions for now in the chat group. Let me see. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. So then this session would actually be recorded and uploaded on YouTube, so you can actually go back and have a look at it as well.
So Jessica, just to
Yes.
confirm, on the day of our judging, like Zoom, we will receive an email, for an invite to MODRON.
It won't be an invite to MODRON again. It will just be a notification that you've been added onto a case. So even if you don't get that email, you can also get the link from your judge dashboard, because we've already prepared it in advance for you. So all you have to do is just go on the judge dashboard, click on it, and it will take you to the right case.
Okay, all right, thanks. I just wanted to clarify because I use Zoom a lot, so just to reconcile the usage between.
Yeah. So you can get the links if that's easier from your judge dashboard. And this would apply for all the teams and room session managers as well. So if you've already played with your dashboard, you can see that there is a little area called the MODRON link. And so even if you don't log on to your emails to check for the link, you can just click on the link from there. So one thing to note is that for mediation advocates and for mediators, your link is going to be different. So don't click on, if you're a mediation advocate, don't click on the mediator's link. And if you're a mediator, don't click on the mediation advocate's link.
It seems like that might be all the questions, Jess.
Yeah. Oh no, we have another one that just came in from Sophia. Can we communicate with our partner using regular texting or Telegram, for example, or is MODRON the only platform for communication we can use? Sophia, I would say the short answer to that is yes, but you shouldn't be getting extra help, obviously. If it's just between yourself and your partner, yes, but outside of anyone else in the room who's actually in an observer role, then that would not be allowed, and the team could face disqualification if it's reported by another team. That's the only qualifier I would add. Yep. Okay, so one of the other common questions that we've gotten is, does MODRON work on Chrome, or is it just selected browsers? And why does MODRON not work on mobile devices?
Okay, so MODRON works on all the major browsers, Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox. We do recommend Chrome. It's the most popular browser in the world by some margin. I believe it's close to 70% of the world uses Chrome, and the other browsers make up much smaller percentages. And so it does work on different browsers. Personally, MODRON recommends Chrome. And the platform does work on mobile devices, so Android and iOS, so iPhones and iPads and so on. So if you're on an Android, we recommend Chrome. You can also use Firefox, but if you're on an iOS device, an iPhone, iPad, we recommend Safari as the browser for that. So you can work across the major browsers and your mobile devices, no problem.
Thanks for that, Nathan. But I think some of our participants have actually tried to access it on a mobile device, and even though they're on, say, an iOS device, and they're trying to load it on Safari, it hasn't actually worked. Is there any way to troubleshoot issues such as this?
Right. Okay, that's an interesting one. The test link that I'm sure you would provide the participants will be useful. Jess, if anyone has an error message come up there, they could share that and we'd help troubleshoot them. But one disclaimer on an iOS device. So in order to be able to use your iPhone or iPad, it needs to have an operating system of iOS above 12, I believe. So some of the older iPhones and iPads, Apple made the decision not to allow them to be updated past a certain point, so that they can't have a newer version of the operating system. But as long as you have a more recent version of the operating system, you should be fine. But we'd be more than happy to help troubleshoot if anyone has any.
Definitely. So, well, based on the feedback I've received from a couple of participants, is that it's not necessarily an error message that's been received, but rather sort of like it just refuses to load. It's just a blank screen.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure what that could be, but I'd be keen to get some more details and we can help troubleshoot that if anyone
Brilliant.
has.
So I'll get that over to you if anyone else comes up with that.
Please.
But for those who are listening in on this, I do recommend that whichever device you've been using to access the practice space, do continue to use it. Whichever browser you've been using, continue to use it as well. You do not want to add to your last minute stress just before the rounds and realize that, oh no, I've used a new device and it actually doesn't work. So it seems that that's all the questions we have so far.
Okay.
So if we don't have any more questions, then thank you everyone for joining us today. As I've mentioned, this session is going to be uploaded on YouTube and made available to everyone. So for those of you whose group mates are going to be missing the session, you can get them to watch this on YouTube. We will be circulating the link in the Telegram channel soon. See ya.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate you making
Nathan.
the time. Thank you.